Good afternoon, everyone. I know that we've still got some folks rolling in, but we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us. My name is Carrie Riddle, and I'm the Deputy Director with the Criminal Investigations and Network Analysis Center, or CINA, and we are a DHS Center of Excellence here at George Mason University. And we're pleased to have you all online today to help kick off our Fall Distinguished Speaker Series, where we host a series of talks exploring topics related to CINA's research footprint, which is centered around approaches to understanding and addressing transnational organized crime. Just a quick reminder to please keep your microphones muted throughout the session today. And following today's talk, we'll have a question and answer session moderated by CINA's Interim Director, Dr. Rebecca Hirsch. So please feel free to type your questions in the chat at any point throughout the talk today. As we continue into fall, I'd like to quickly highlight another one of our center's upcoming co-sponsored events, which is a hackathon focusing on solutions to combat counterfeit products online and the criminals that benefit from that. The event is being jointly organized by the Track Center here at Mason and the Global Innovation Policy Center. And the hackathon is open to teams from all backgrounds and all skill sets, and the sign up is still open for that. To learn more about the hackathon and how to sign up, and to learn more about other CINA events, please visit our website, cina.gmu.edu. And this afternoon, it's a pleasure to welcome and introduce our speaker, Dr. Nikiforakis. Nick is an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science at Stony Brook University. He leads the PragSec lab, where his students conduct research in cybersecurity with a focus on web security, web privacy, DNS security, attack surface reduction, and deception-based security. He's the author of more than 80 peer-reviewed academic publications, and his work is often discussed in the popular press. He is a recipient of an NSF Career Award and the Office of Naval Research Young Investigator Award, as well as a range of other security-related and privacy-related awards by federal funding agencies. The title of his talk today is Bridgespotting: How Web3 Attackers Target Web2 Cryptocurrency Users. Nick, we're very pleased to have you here today, and if you're ready, I'll hand the floor over to you.
All right, so thank you very much for having me. Indeed, the title of today's talk is related to how Web3 attackers find and target Web2 cryptocurrency users. So I won't spend too much time on this slide. I'm an associate professor at Stony Brook University. We're a SUNY campus located on Long Island. I try to do everything and anything related to the web, and therefore Web3 fell under my purview. So here I am today talking to you about Web2 and Web3 and cryptocurrencies. So the roadmap for today's talk is this one. We will first briefly introduce social engineering attacks, why they're so powerful, and then we will see how attackers are using these attacks against cryptocurrency users. We will define what we call Web2 to Web3 bridges, and then I will dive into more detail into two recent results coming out from my lab. The first one related to cryptocurrency giveaway scams in the wild that was presented earlier this year. And the second one is related to how attackers abuse large media platforms to target cryptocurrency users that is scheduled to appear in a conference early next year. So let me start. For those of you who have been around in a while, you must remember that browsing the web in the early 2000s, late 2000s, was a very different risk proposition than it is today. You could go to a website, and without doing anything, you could end up being infected with malware. These were called drive-by downloads, and they were plaguing the web and users. Today, things have really changed. Browsers have really matured, so they're much better engineered pieces of software. Vendors are using a lot of different technologies, such as sandboxing browsers to make sure that vulnerabilities don't immediately translate to a takeover of your user system, finding vulnerabilities in-house using techniques such as fuzzing, and then also coordinating bug disclosure programs with worldwide researchers who report vulnerabilities and get rewarded for these reports. And so today, it's much harder to actually have an attack on the web that doesn't involve users at all. And because of this, attackers often follow the path of least resistance, and therefore they have shifted, to user-assisted attacks, where somehow the user makes the attack happen. So this is defined as social engineering, and the idea is that if the browser now is secure, we target the user sitting behind the browser. And there's a lot of psychological tricks involved in social engineering. So there is a sense of urgency. So the attacker tries to make the user think that something has to happen right now, or else something bad will happen, or they may miss out on something. There's an appeal to authority where we use images and names of people that are popular and therefore carry some trust and their opinion matters. And there's also playing to people's greed and fear of missing out, that they could do something right now that will really make a positive change in their life. If they don't do it right now, they may miss out on that. And so there is a number of textbook social engineering attacks. There's the phishing that we're all familiar with banks and email accounts. There are technical support scams that were quite popular a few years ago, with people pretending to be from Microsoft, remote connecting to people's machines, diagnosing fake malware that's not really there, and then offering unnecessary tech support services. And then for users that engage still in some sort of risky online behavior, such as trying to find, let's say, online content that is pirated, they may then still be tricked into downloading fake plugins and fake software while they're trying to get that illicit content. So cryptocurrency users are technical, and therefore they are less likely to fall victims to social engineering attacks. We started out with this idea, but it turns out that that is not the case. Maybe the average cryptocurrency user is more technically skilled, but he's also engaging in more risky behavior online than an average online user. So therefore, social engineering very much works in the context of cryptocurrencies. However, if you compare the adoption of cryptocurrencies versus other centralized technologies, this is still quite low. So according to Pew Research, 70% of US adults have some involvement in cryptocurrency, and clearly some of them will not be like operating their own wallets and sending transactions, but may just hold some ETFs or stocks on Robinhood. Compared to that, 75% of US users use Gmail, and 81% of US users have used PayPal while shopping online. So if you're an attacker and you are targeting users, you can't quite use the same techniques that you used against Gmail and against PayPal when you're trying to, let's say, steal cryptocurrency assets, right? If you just blast the internet with some malicious content, you're not going to find users as easily. You are wasting money. If you're using malicious ads, you are wasting ad spend while you're doing this. And also because you're blasting everyone and anyone, and most of these people will not be able to participate in your scam because they're not cryptocurrency users, you are more likely to be detected early and stopped. So attackers need a more surgical way of finding cryptocurrency users on the regular web, on Web 2, and then attacking them and their cryptocurrency assets. So we call these Web 2 to Web 3 bridges, right? The places where an attacker can identify users on the regular web and then transition them over to the cryptocurrency web to Web 3, and then steal the crypto assets. So if you have done research on malware, you may recognize this as a similar concept to watering hole attacks, where it is difficult to attack a company directly. So what attackers would do is they would find where the employees of that company congregate online, and then they would attack that online place, similar to attacking a watering hole, instead of attacking, let's say, animals at their nests. So once these users are identified by attackers, now they can be targeted, these cryptocurrency users, now they can be targeted and they can have their Web3 assets stolen. And so these are these bridges from Web 2 to Web 3. And for us, there's actually a very good thing that we can do. If we can spot these bridges and block them, we can actually protect users, because these bridges are still traditional web bridges. They are susceptible to takedowns and blocking. And so if you can actually stop the crossing of that bridge, you are preventing an attack from happening, and you're not too late after a cryptocurrency transaction that is irreversible. So let's talk about one of these bridges, that is YouTube. So YouTube has a massive footprint online, hundreds of millions of users use it, and at least half of them report to be using it for education. And so cryptocurrencies are also, of course, present on YouTube. There are channels with millions of subscribers these are all legitimate channels that are talking about cryptocurrencies, recent news, updates. Some of them are just, let's say, cryptocurrency agnostic, so they will talk about all cryptocurrencies. Others, like the one operated by Charles Hoskinson here, it's the creator of the Cardano cryptocurrency, so he tells news to everyone about his own cryptocurrency and his own blockchain. So there is a lot of activity related to cryptocurrencies on YouTube. And so that is definitely a place where attackers could exploit the platform and identify cryptocurrency users. So this was me in early 2021. having been a bit late to the cryptocurrency space, but trying to catch up and trying to educate myself. And I'm consuming any and all content that I can find. And while I'm searching for new content online, I see something like this. So this is a live video on YouTube that purports to show you that a cryptocurrency giveaway is currently happening. What is interesting about this is that this part here of this part of the video is actually a real interview from Charles Hoskinson, a real MAA that he often does. What attackers have done is they have taken this video and they have incorporated it in a larger frame. And this larger frame now, of course, is full of fake information. So it tells people about a giveaway event. It tells you that, hey, just go to this website right here, cardanoada2021.live, and if you send 1,000 ADA, we will send you back 2,000 ADA. If you send 2,000 ADA, we'll send you back 4,000 ADA. And of course, this is a cryptocurrency giveaway scam. So I was quite new to the space at the time. However, I knew enough about security to know that people don't give money out for free. So this was my first, let's say, interaction with cryptocurrency giveaway scams. And so let me now show you and narrate a video of a full attack starting again on YouTube. You will see here that we have a user who is searching for cryptocurrency related content, specifically looking for Vitalik Buterin, who is the creator of Ethereum. He chooses the live filter, so he wants to see the videos that are currently being streamed online. And the first one appears to have Elon Musk. If we start playing this video, then we actually see again the same scam. There is a real interview that is incorporated in a larger frame, and this is a crypto giveaway scam. There is a domain that users are supposed to click on or take a picture of with their phones, and then they will go to this Shiba website, again using Elon Musk's picture and promising to double funds related to BTC, Ethereum, and Shiba. And attackers are using a lot of clever tricks here to increase the conversion rate of their victims. As you will see here, they're actually abusing live chat services. So you get to talk with scammers in real time and ask them information about what's happening. And then you could very well be convinced through these real-time interactions that you otherwise wouldn't. And so if we think about all the psychological tricks going on here, we definitely have an urgency aspect. The video was live and it may soon stop. The giveaway is not forever. It has an ending and you may miss out on life-changing money if you don't participate right now. There is an authority, appeal to authority, where you see abusing pictures of Elon Musk and I think it's Cathy Woods and other names. And we have familiarity and trust. And so you see here that the scammer is actually responding to us and telling us that, yes, this is definitely a real giveaway event and encouraging us to participate. And there is all sorts of other techniques, such as using recognizable colors related to Bitcoin to, again, assuage users' concerns and convince them to do something against their best interests, that is, send money that they will never get back. So the recipe is quite simple. The attacker will set up web pages that are advertising cryptocurrency giveaway events or lottery events. They are instructing users to send funds to specific wallets operated by attackers. Number 3 is the most, let's say, difficult part for the attacker. Just because a website is online doesn't mean that people will come to that website. So the attacker must somehow bring a lot of traffic to this website. That traffic ideally has to be cryptocurrency users. That relates to our Web 2 to Web 3 bridge conversation. And then profit from the fraction of users who fall for this scam. And so the cost is relatively simple or relatively low. If you assume that you can drive traffic for free because perhaps you compromise a popular YouTube channel, then all you pay is the price of a domain name and maybe some hosting if you cannot get that for free. So there is an education aspect to this where you have to tell users that what are these cryptocurrency giveaway scams. You have to keep telling them because you have new users of cryptocurrencies getting onboarded every single week. But from the technology aspect, we can do better than just telling people. We can try to protect people proactively, right? So we can try to identify abusive domains and web servers and wallet addresses. We can initiate takedowns whenever that is possible on the traditional web. We can add malicious domains to existing block lists if we can't immediately take them down. And potentially, we can actually change the software itself for Web3, such as software wallets, and maybe push updates to online exchanges to protect users and give them one last chance before they actually send funds to an attacker and can never get these funds back. So as per usual, We try to do the opposite of what regular users do. Regular users try to avoid getting scammed. When we do this kind of research, we try to find as many scams as possible. And so the question is, how can we automatically find these types of scams in the wild? Video parsing YouTube and trying to find whether something is a real interview or a giveaway doesn't really scale. It won't work very well. And it won't cover other techniques of bringing attackers to the cryptocurrency giveaway sites. So what we did is we decided to focus on domains. And we did this because we observed that attackers were registering high quality domain names, such as, for example, btcgiveaway2023.com, as opposed to just compromising someone's website and then throwing extra content in the directory, such as joesgarage.xyz. The amount of funds that these attackers can steal is so massive that paying $10 or $15 for a good domain name, it's just nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. So the question now is, if we're focusing on domains, how can we actually find these domain names in the wild, the ones that include suspicious keywords? And for that, we rely on certificate transparency. Let me give you a very quick overview of what that is. So certificate authorities are the organizations that sign certificates on the web. And so when your browser accepts a TLS certificate and gives you a nice green icon when you visit the website, that means that this certificate has been signed by a trusted certificate authority. These authorities were under attack in the early 2010s, and this was for very good reason, because if you successfully attack a certificate authority, you can issue certificates for any website that you want. So attackers would issue a certificate for google.com, for paypal.com, for yahoo.com, and they would then abuse these certificates until some later time when it was discovered that the break-in occurred, and then the companies would withdraw the certificates. So what certificate transparency did is it changed the setting from, let's say, getting certificates issued in secret to making this a public event. So today, whenever someone gets a certificate for the website, the certificate authority giving that certificate must announce this to everyone in the world, right? So if google.com right now gets a new certificate for one of their servers, they have to tell the world through this certificate transparency program that just right now, I certificate authority XYZ, issued a new certificate for google.com. That is actually enforced by most browsers, so certificate authorities don't get to opt out of this mechanism. And what this does is it actually gives us a way to see all the certificates being issued in real time. So I have a little bit of a video here. This is a real-time video. It's not sped up. These are all the certificates getting issued every second in the wild. So we're talking about hundreds or thousands of certificates per second. And the idea here is that if you're PayPal or Google, you will be looking at this stream and you will know whether if someone is getting a certificate in your name, and then you can issue takedown proceedings. What we can do instead of that, we can actually look at all the domains flying by and identify the ones that have suspicious words in them, like BTC, giveaway, Ethereum, and so on, and feed these into crawlers that can then go out and try to identify giveaway scams in real time. So this is what we did. We performed the first large-scale study of cryptocurrency scam websites through this tool that we built that we called Crypto Scam Tracker. And through this process, we identified 10,000 scam websites in 6 months. This was the first quantitative and large-scale analysis that went beyond anecdotal information and the recounts of victims. And our dataset is available. I will also link to this at the end. There is doubleandnothing.github.io. So you can get all the malicious websites and wallets that we were able to identify through this study. So briefly, what our tool does is it uses certificate transparency, like I mentioned earlier, to find the right domain names. We then operate a pool of crawlers that will automatically go out to all of these websites that match our criteria. They will take screenshots, they will collect the HTML code from each website. And then we have a series of automated labeling that tries to automatically find whether something is a giveaway scam or not. This is not perfect, so we need an analyst in the loop to make sure that we're not flagging falsely websites. And at the end of this, we have a data set of cryptocurrency scams that involves both the websites involved in these cryptocurrencies, the servers hosting those websites, and the wallets and the transactions of these wallets. So at a high level, our study lasted for the first half of 2022. We identified 10,000 crypto scam web pages. These were hosted on 3,800 domains on 2,700 IP addresses. So you can see some co-location of domains on actual servers. And we extracted successfully and automatically about 2,200 scammer wallets. So let me give you a quick overview. So we were finding on average 56 new scam web pages each day. So this was not by any means a rare phenomenon. And with the exception of a few spikes, this was relatively uniform throughout our study in the first half of 2022. Like I mentioned earlier, the data did verify that attackers have no problem spending a reasonable amount of money on buying quality domain names. So their preferred TLDs were .com, .org, and .net. These were the top three TLDs that they were using for registering domain names. And the total registration cost of all the domains we found goes to over $22,000, which is, of course, a very small amount of money when you actually see later how many funds they're able to successfully steal. So we saw that they're using often years in their domain names, such as 2022 ethereum.org. So again, this lends some sort of credibility and urgency to the giveaway. Like this is something happening right now. It won't happen next year. It didn't happen last year. And we also found that they were often using multipliers in their TLDs, such as 2x, 3x, and 4x. Like again, Ethereum giveaway 2x.net. This was something that will double your Ethereum. It's a life-changing opportunity. That's how it is supposed to be perceived by users. In terms of who is hosting these websites, we found that there were some companies that were hosting a disproportionate amount of scams. So Reg.ru and DDoS Guard, they were hosting about 10% of all scam websites that we found. Yet if you look at the top web, the top benign web, they were hosting less than 0.05% of those top 10,000 websites. So something is wrong in this picture. Either these are bulletproof providers that knowingly host these websites and turn a blind eye, or they're being abused by these scammers and they somehow don't know about it. We identified that most of these domains that we found had a short lifespan. So most were online for a little bit over a day and then they were no longer available. And for some of them, interestingly, we were able to extract information from their whois information, such as their registration emails, which we later used for clustering individual scams into larger scam campaigns. And we also found that the domains that are getting registered are weaponized very fast. So attackers are registering a domain name, and within the first 10 or 50 hours, they were already hosting a giveaway scam on the domain name and then driving traffic from web to bridges onto their sites. So like I mentioned earlier, we can do this clustering using information. So if you have two, let's say, separate instances of a scam that do not appear to share wallets, they are listing different wallets for users to send funds, but they are sharing an email, we can actually join these two instances as part of the same cluster. And so on the table on the right here, you can see our top 10 campaigns of scams. And you will see here that these are quite large, right? So the first campaign is actually operating 1,600 websites, and the second one, 1,300 websites. With a different strategy here, the first attacker using a small number of domains, but a large number of pages, and the second attacker registering many, many domains. And what's particularly interesting here is if you look at the number of cryptocurrencies involved, this attacker here on the second row, he pretty much attacked every cryptocurrency that he could attack. There was no philosophical compunction that this is a true BTC believer and only steals BTC. This was an attacker who knew how to launch giveaway scams successfully and would then roll all of these out for different blockchains and attacking each user at each blockchain separately, right? And so this also shows you the importance of continuous education to users who are just coming and attending different blockchains or participating in different blockchains. We found out, since there's a web component, that these websites are often relying on third-party services. And like you saw earlier, they're relying on live chat services. And they're also, among others, relying on analytics. So this is interesting from a defensive point of view, because this means that these live chat services and these analytics providers, they may very well be the first ones to know that a scam website is being placed online. They have a privileged position in the browser and in the page because of their JavaScript code. And so these actually could be used as early detection methods to take down websites fast before users get on them. Briefly, let me tell you that existing protection mechanisms like the Google Safe Browsing program and other types of block lists, they don't work really well for cryptocurrency scams. And you will see here that, for example, only 16% of domains that we found were part of more than 40 engines on VirusTotal. And we believe this is because these crypto scam web pages, they break the traditional mold of what constitutes a malicious page, right? Traditionally, a malicious page was a page that was offering you something to download, malware, or was trying to exploit your browser, or was a phishing site that wanted you to type in usernames and passwords, or offer you a browser extension. None of this is happening here, right? It's just a page, and then it's the user who will look at this page and then will copy paste a wallet, and then will switch over software to a desktop or a mobile wallet and then send funds to attackers, right? So these new types of scams require new types of solutions. That is the point that we're making here. Now, if we look at the cryptocurrencies that were involved in this, so you will see that these were the top 4 cryptocurrencies. So we found 6,700 scams that were trying to steal Ethereum, 5,900 that were trying to steal Bitcoin, and then a bit over 1,000 for Ripple and a bit under 1,000 for Cardano. These top 4 cryptocurrencies were actually used in 90% of the scams in our data set. So we can focus on them to understand how attackers are stealing funds. And what we did here is quite straightforward. These are public blockchains. Once we know the attacker's wallets, we can actually go to these blockchains. We can look at incoming transactions. And under the assumption that an attacker has no real reason to get an old wallet that has been used for other scams and now use this for a new scam, we can count these incoming transactions. And so these are the numbers. We see here that, for example, the attackers were able to steal a bit under 1,000 Bitcoins, so quite a bit, 4,000 Ethereum, and then 2 million ADA and 5 million Ripple tokens. And what we did is we used the minimum and the maximum conversion rate during the first half of 2022 to estimate what this means in terms of dollars. And we found that this pretty much ranges to between $25 million to $70 million stolen through these cryptocurrency giveaway scams, right? And some people may disagree as to how it is that we're counting this, right? Is it 24 million? Should it be 10 million? Should you have used, the prices at a different time? But the overall story is that tens of millions of dollars are being stolen through these scams. So we can look now at the victims. So look at who is sending funds to these wallets. And if we count one wallet as one victim, then we identified 15,000 scam victims. And what we did is we looked at the number of transactions of these victims, right? And our theory was that if you have a low number of transactions, that means that you're not very well versed in this, right? You are a new user, you've just done a few test transactions. And so we saw that the majority of users that were victims of cryptocurrency giveaway scams were indeed in this low bracket of transactions. So they were not sending more than a few 5 or 10 or 20 transactions from the wallets, which means that these are novice users, right? The only population that curbed this was Ethereum users, where we had, let's say, an equal representation in wallets with very large number of transactions. And we believe this is related to sort of a lot of NFT activity and a lot of online exchanges where users will have online wallets in addition to having the non-custodial wallets that we're finding for these, let's say, more novice users. So that is the first breach that I want to talk to you about. And effectively what we saw attackers creating new YouTube channels or compromising large channels, luring users with videos away from the YouTube platform and onto their own websites, right? And so let's stay on YouTube and see if attackers can use a different bridge on YouTube to identify potential victims. So this is where attackers, instead of acting as content creators, they act as commenters, as fellow subscribers. So these users pretend to be channel owners and reaching out to users, or they pretend to be fellow subscribers and engage people in the comments. So let me give you an example of both. So here on the right, we have a screenshot. This is Andrei Jik. He has a popular personal finance YouTube channel with a few million subscribers. And this is him thanking some user for his kind words. Right above him, you see another comment that appears to be also coming from Andrei Jik. However, this is a scammer. What this scammer has done is he has saved and is reusing the profile picture of Andrei Jik to comment. Instead of having a username, he has, that is, like John Smith, he has a WhatsApp and then a set of numbers in his username. As you will see, these numbers are not quite numbers, like we can see them as numbers, but if you approach this from the point of view of software, these are not ASCII numbers. These are special characters from different alphabets that are most likely evading detection by any automated system. And then in terms of the actual message, you just see a series of emojis that users will understand that you're supposed to look up and see that phone number and then contact me, send me a message on that phone number, right? So we see this pivoting here where attackers are not posting URLs that can be crawled like we did in Crypto Scam Tracker, but where they're actually abusing all of these techniques to get users to contact them over a different channel, specifically in this case, over the WhatsApp channel. So this is the channel owner impersonation attack. And this is a different attack, which is fellow subscriber impersonation. This is a significantly more complicated attack to detect. So in this case, what the attacker does is he is using multiple puppet accounts. He is using one account to ask a leading question, such as, oh, how can one successfully invest in cryptocurrencies in this environment? I have tried in the past and I have lost. A different account will start responding to that question. And then even more different accounts will start chiming in and giving their opinion. And all of these are actually puppet accounts controlled by a single attacker. And the whole point of this is to create this narrative where organically you will be told that there is this great person that is an investment advisor, and you can contact them on Telegram, and they will handle your Bitcoin or your stocks with great success. And this is very complicated again to detect, right? This is not a single attacker. You can't just search for URLs or phone numbers. And you can see also other tricks, such as using typos, telegram instead of telegram, to again bypass any kind of obvious keyword searching that YouTube software or other software will do. So the good thing about this is that at the moment, these scripted conversations happen within a few seconds. So there is a bit of a side channel here to betray that these are not real users that are all just helping each other, but something more sinister is going on. So for us, we observe this behavior, and we wanted to understand whether some channels are more likely to be attacked than other channels. So for instance, are you more likely to observe these scams on a personal finance channel versus a cooking channel? How often are these comments blocked by YouTube or the channel owners? And what actually happens if you contact them, right? So here you can see that we're supposed to speak to people over Telegram or over WhatsApp, but how exactly will attackers try to monetize this communication, right? And are cryptocurrencies involved? And since this is part of a cryptocurrency talk, you may guess that yes, indeed, cryptocurrencies are involved in this. So what we did is we built a system that we use YouTube APIs to fetch comments multiple times a day under the comments posted under popular videos. And then we pass these comments through a series of filters, trying to find this type of scams that I showed you, trying to find people that are saying suspicious things in the text that in the messages that they post, right? Or they have images that look surprisingly or suspiciously similar to the images of the channel owners where they're posting. And also we're using time-based filters to find conversations that are happening too fast to be organic, such as this investment that where we have 10, 20 people responding to each other within seconds. That is just highly unlikely to be happening, with real users. So we build a system, and let me give you again a few high-level numbers. So this system operated for 6 months from the last few months of 2022 to March 2023. We processed a total of 8.8 million comments that were posted under 20 on all the YouTube videos of 20 popular channels. And in that, we identified 206,000 scam comments, so about 2.3%, which is actually quite a bit. Scam comments that were intending to get users to communicate with the attacker over a different platform to do something bad. So in terms of who is posting these were 10,500 scammer control accounts, which again is a lot. And there is a bit of a question here. Are all of these entirely puppet accounts that were created for the express purpose of doing scams? Or are some YouTube users compromised entirely where the benign users have lost control of their accounts and now it's the attacker who controls the accounts? Or there is some sort of parasitic relationship where the attacker uses the account by night and the benign user uses the account by day. And we were able to extract 2,800 phone numbers to be contacted over WhatsApp and 200 Telegram accounts to be contacted over Telegram. So we identified that each day there will be about 1,100 new scam comments just on these 20 monitor channels. So this is a large number of comments just on 20 monitor channels, right? Again, this is not a rare behavior. If you are a YouTube user, you are more likely than not to experience this type of activity. And in terms of who is posting these scam comments, we identified 58 new scam accounts each day. So however attackers are creating accounts or procuring accounts, they have no trouble doing it, it seems. something that we didn't expect. We expected a lot of scams on personal finance style content and not really all that many, for example, in cooking content, right? How exactly will you steal funds from a cooking channel, right? We found that this was not the case. We found that the attackers are quite flexible into how they convince users to part with their funds. So while we did have a lot of scams on finance, so for example, the average number of scam comments for a finance channel was 14,000. If you look at cooking, it's also 14,000, right? And I will give you some more details as to how exactly they're able to change the story and go after funds no matter what the context is. So in terms of comment dynamics, we found that scammers are quite fast. So if you were to post a comment, then the fake channel owner would come and respond to you quite fast. So we found that 50% of the responses, they come in less than 15 seconds, right? So this is clear evidence of automation. It's not like a scammer is sitting there responding to everyone. Someone is operating bots. They are identifying new comments, probably the very same way that we are, and they're immediately responding to these comments with their fake accounts. We measured the time of day activity, and we saw an uneven distribution of scam comments. So if you look at the UTC time, we see the majority of scam comment activity happening in late hours, so like around midnight for our time zone. This is peculiar. We don't really know exactly why. We have theories. One is that the attacker is trying to take advantage of a quota reset because YouTube only gives you a certain number of API calls each day. So if you want to send more than these, you could stagger your scams in a way where you have 2 days worth of quota on a single run. The other thing is it could be revealing the true geolocation of scammers. So you can go to whatever part of the world, midnight for us is normal working hours for them, and then potentially the attackers are actually there and they're conducting their scams during regular business hours. So far, we've seen that scams are very much popular on YouTube, and we've seen how exactly they work. However, we still don't know what happens when you contact these people, right? How exactly will they try to convince you to send them funds, right? And are cryptocurrencies involved somehow? So to do this, we had to rely on deception. And as you may guess, in academia, we can't just do things in the way that YouTubers are doing it. We have to get IRB approvals, that everything is done ethically, and then we're not jeopardizing anyone's safety or security. So we did all of that. And we got permission to not reveal our true identity to the contacted scammers, right? It's not like you can call the scammer and say, hey, we're doing a study on crypto scams. Would you like to participate? So we had that requirement waived, and we also had no debriefing at the end. So we are calling scammers. We contacted 50 scammers in total. And our protocol is that we are pretending to be unaware users responding to their comments. What we're doing is we will follow instructions that they're giving us. We will respond positively to all questions related to, are we interested? How did we find them? And so on. And we keep that going until the monetization method is revealed. Once that is revealed, we make a note of that. We have a recording of all the conversation, and then we stop communicating, right? No funds are ever sent to scammers because we don't need to. Once the channel reveals itself, then that is successful and we can stop there. And we limit interactions over WhatsApp and Telegram. So some scammers tried to call us, we didn't pick up. They tried to text us outside of these platforms, we didn't answer. So all of the communications are happening over WhatsApp and over Telegram. So let me briefly tell you what we found in these 50 conversations. We found this was not necessarily entirely expected from us. We found the majority of scams end with cryptocurrencies, right? So 38 of the 50 scams involve cryptocurrencies. These are typically there in the form of an investment. So we are talking to people, they're telling us about a great investment opportunity. I have a case study in the next slide to show you an example. And then at some point we have to send crypto in, either to just a flat address that we were given that supposedly belongs to the channel owner or to the investment advisor, or more often to an investment website that looks very legitimate from the outside. However, it turns out that it is a part of a scam operation. The second most popular way of monetizing scams was with fake prizes. So people were told in cooking channels, people were told that you want a fridge or you want a high-end toaster, you just need to pay for shipping. In this case, the attackers were actually relying on more traditional payment methods such as PayPal, Zelle, and Cash App. And we fully expect that there's money mules there, right? It's not like the attacker is revealing his own identity to us via PayPal. Someone else is working from home and not knowing that they are doing something illegal. And in terms of answers to our messages on these platforms, we identified that scammers are quite fast. So if you look here at the box plots on the right, most of the first responses to our messages on WhatsApp or Telegram, they are happening in the first few minutes. So now we didn't see quite a lot of automation there. So we think that there's people answering there. So there's people waiting and immediately engage with you, trying to get you to eventually give up of your funds. So let me show you a quick case study. So the green comments are us. The red comments are a scammer. We're contacting them, of course, with a fake identity. They're asking us how we're doing. After some pleasantries and after some questions as to how we found them and what we're interested in, we are told that, hey, there is a cryptocurrency investment opportunity. We can earn daily through cryptocurrency. This is to help subscribers to earn more than $2,000 to $4,000 per day in cryptocurrencies. And of course, like every legitimate investment, you can only win, you do not lose. There are no risks associated with it. And once we told them that we're very excited and we're really eager to proceed, then we're given the URL of this quote unquote investment website. And this is this website. And what's particularly interesting here, and I will cover this near the end, is that these websites have a very big lifetime. They look legitimate. It's not like a giveaway scam. So they can be online for hundreds of days, for years, because from the outside, nothing seems too fishy. It seems like an investment site. Maybe you ignore it, maybe you make an account, but you need to have the full context of how you came to be on this investment website to know that this is part of a scam. So briefly, we identified through this process 47 scammer wallets. These, again, using the same techniques as before, we look at incoming transactions. We found that the attackers are quite successful. So 93% of the wallets that we identified had incoming transactions. So they're stealing from someone. They stole a total of 67 Bitcoin and 36 Ethereum, which again, using the same technique as before with a minimum and a maximum conversion rate, translates to between $1 and $2 million of funds, right? And again, this is just on these 50 communications that we did, the 38 ones that, the 38 scammers that have cryptocurrencies. You can use whatever multiplier you want to find out what is the total amount of funds being stolen by attackers online. So we are doing quite a bit of work in this space, and we have stuff planned for the future. The things that are the most related to what I mentioned today are these fake crypto investment sites, right? And you can see 2 screenshots there. So these traditionally will only be revealed to you after a 3-step process. So you have to engage with attackers on a media platform. Then you have to engage with them again on instant messaging. And after you convince them that you are a worthy victim, they will actually reveal the fake investment website. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to see if we can bypass the first 2 steps that are the more difficult and the more manual steps, and try to build infrastructure to detect these fake investment sites online without any help from the scammers themselves, right? And again, these have very long shelf lives. They appear to be staying online for years at a time, and our early results show that there's thousands of them online. So with that, I want to conclude today's talk. Attackers are pivoting from using crypto as part of a ransomware attack to stealing crypto from users who do have crypto. And I showed you how they're building these Web 2 to Web 3 bridges to identify these users. All of the social engineering problems on the web are new again in the context of Web 3. And these crypto scams, they break the mold of malicious content. There's nothing to download on these websites. There are no forms to fill in. And traditional detection software has a very low accuracy in the low tens, because again, it was not built to detect cryptocurrency giveaway scams. So we believe that there is a space for new automated solutions like the ones we've built to detect these kinds of bridges before funds are lost. And in general, you can see that Web3 is a greenfield for attackers and defenders. So there's a lot of space to do innovative research. On the right part of this slide, you will see the 2 papers that include many more details than the ones that I could cover today. So the first one is already publicly available and with a data set, and the second one will be presented in a couple of months. So the paper will be available on my website in a few weeks. And again, we are releasing some sort of code that people can use to build follow-up work if they want to do that. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.